Good morning or afternoon for some of you, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Alina Islam, and I'm a Senior Research Associate here at Red Cloud Securities. Our webinar today focuses on Titan Minerals, an exploration company advancing a portfolio of gold and copper projects in southern Ecuador. And we have with us Matthew Carr, Executive Director and CEO. For the webinar today, Matt will provide an introduction to Titan, including an overview of the upcoming exploration activities. And after the presentation, we'll take your questions live. Please send us your questions via the chat box, and we'll get through as many as we can. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to take a few moments to mention the fine print. For Titan Minerals, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the Titan Minerals corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. And with that, Matt, I'll hand it over to you. Please take it away.
No problem. Thanks, Elena. Look, thanks for those that have joined the call and listening in, particularly in Canada and North America, and to those in other parts of the world who are tuning in to have a listen to this presentation. Some of our Australian investors will get a copy of the recording and will tune in tomorrow. So we're a Minerals ASX listed company, Ecuador only focused, which is something that we're thrilled with. We think we're in a fantastic part of the world to explore. We're stoked to be a junior miner, with the potential to merge into something much bigger, and with projects that we're extremely proud to own. So I'll step through. Here we go. So as I mentioned, we identified Ecuador as a highly prospective country for mining. The lack of exploration over the last 50 years in reality has been minimal compared to most other parts of the world. So we felt it was a compelling area to be a part of. In particular, the political stability and support around mining was evident. You were starting to see some of the majors position themselves into Ecuador. And we also knew that it wasn't easy to try and get high quality prospects in Ecuador. So we closed this deal in purchasing these assets in March 2020. Off the back of that, we spent the next 12 to 18 months really honing in on all the things that needed to be addressed in terms of positioning these assets to invest on a consistent fashion. So there was a hell of a lot of work that I guess largely goes unnoticed because it's not visible to the market, but sets this company up for a fantastic future. We have certainly revitalised the board and in-country management, and that lays the foundation for growth in the future, and I'll touch on that as we go. So here you can see the refresh board. So in September 2021, we felt like we had control of where the assets where they were at, and we're ready to really invest in them. But there's one thing to have the assets. As everyone knows, the most important thing is making sure you have the people. And that was something that we felt the assets were ready for. And these assets had never, ever had the high caliber and quality people that were put together that now surround this asset package. So we went with Peter Cook as our chairman. He's an industry veteran, really well credentialed, worked all around the world, and in particular had a huge amount of success in Australia. So he came in as the chairman, and in particular, Peter he was an investor and looked at these projects, and he just felt he had to be a part of it. He hadn't seen style of projects we've got. He hadn't seen them since he first saw Wafi in PNG many years ago. So he really wanted to staple himself, for the opportunity that was presenting. The next cab off the rank was Barry Bourne, and Barry had spent time working all around the globe on a number of epithermal gold systems, and he oversaw Barrick's investment in South America for a number of years. Barry started as the geophysicist on these assets, and again, he also came to us and felt that he could add additional value and thought there was a real discovery potential with what we had. So Barry stepped on. The next person who joined was Tamara Brown, and Tamara had spent time with Lundin on behalf of Newcrest, so had that Ecuadorian experience. Super talented, someone that we're thrilled to have as part of our team, and so she recently joined in 2022, at the start of this year. You can see our market cap sitting at about 60 mil US, 85 mil Aussie. We think we're seriously undervalued with what we've got. So I think the opportunity is right there in front of us. Why Ecuador? I guess some of the things that initially appealed to me when I first went to Ecuador and visited was it's noticeable, the spend on the infrastructure, the airports, the roads are in good order. I think it's 87% of the country is on hydroelectricity. Diesel and fuel is unbelievably cheap compared to anywhere else, in the modern world. And you've got abundance of labour that are just value their jobs and want to learn and grow. You've had, the Lundin family with Lundin Gold have enormous success there at Fruta del Norte. You've got SolGold's success with their Cascabel discovery. But importantly, there's been so little exploration work in this part of the world. And where we are, you can see we're down in the southern part of Ecuador. Fantastic spot to operate, friendly region. We're relatively close to the Peruvian border, so that part of the world was an exclusion zone for a number of years with the border dispute between Peru and Ecuador. So this is like stepping back in time with the exploration assets that we've got at our disposal. You can see BHP and Newcrest have certainly made us, a strong move into the country, and we're hearing that other, major mining companies are looking to try and position into Ecuador in this coming 12 months. Mining has been something that the Lasso government and the government generally, the last two governments in Ecuador have supported. They see it as a strong lever, for future taxes, royalties, infrastructure spend, job growth, training, and so they've really bought into the the Responsible Mining Exploration Act and getting behind it. A little bit of background on, I guess, the history of Titan. Look, we initially had some assets in Peru. We identified these assets in Ecuador. It was an enormous package of assets when we first bought the assets. So we had to identify and focus on where we really saw the value. So we divested one of the assets that came with it called Zaruma and Portobello. So we sold that asset off and really narrowed the focus on what we think are our three key priority assets, being Dynasty, Linderos, and Copper Porphyry. So we went through, I guess, a serious amount of work internally with ranking and prioritising the assets. I guess one thing that I'll touch on now is we certainly when we came in, we knew we had fantastic projects, but with that, you need to make sure that you can get onto your projects and do the work. So once we focused on what our strategy was, identified and prioritised, We then really went about setting up a really strong and competent CSR team that really focused on the communities. Since prior to us, none of these assets ever had a strategy adopted or a CSR team lead and engage with the local communities. So the communities down in this part of the world are friendly, they're engaging, they're rural families. They really want to be involved in learning and job training and job opportunities and engage with us. And importantly, just understand who we are and what we're trying to achieve. So, exploration is certainly different than mining. And so part of that process was educating the people on exactly what we're trying to do over the coming 12 months. And so take them along for the ride. And so, initially when we first bought the assets, we had, 4% of the concession area access to, which was quite remarkable. We've had huge acceleration since January, Jan and Feb this year. It's been amazing, and our CSR team, geology team, environmental groups working collaboratively together have done an amazing job. So that's allowed us now to actually get in and do the work and the layers of work that need to be done on these projects. Part of, I guess, fixing the treasure, when we took these assets on, there was a bit to clean up and work through. A big part of that was selling off. We sold off Peru, we sold off Zaruma, Portobello. We raised money in August 2021, and there was some debt that we converted to equity. So we cleaned everything up, cleaned the balance sheet up, made sure it was ready. It was a company ready for investment. What I touched on before with the board, the other key appointments were, and absolutely critical appointments were, Mike Skeed and Pablo Morales. So Mike had spent time with Goldcorp and also GT Gold, both bought by Newmont. I think Mike would have played an instrumental part in both of those companies, cleaning it up, fixing up, and developing the models around the geology that would have been robust and certainly stood up to the rigor that companies like Newmont would have taken when they were reviewing the geology. So Mike came in, and he really has worked hand in glove with Pablo Morales, and Pablo came up from Chile. Pablo was working on the Newmont Barrick JV at Cerro Casale. He came and visited the projects, and he moved him and his family up to Ecuador. He just really wanted to be part of it. Felt there was a huge opportunity for a massive discovery, knowing that we had the backstop of a 2.1 million ounce resource at Dynasty that has all the signs and signatures to be much bigger on a number of different levels. So those two guys have led the way, and underneath them, they have gone and built really strong and competent teams in different departments, from the environmental department, the CSR department, logistics. The guys have really got a fantastic team that they've built and working with. So here we've got our key projects. So we're down in the southern tip. You can see the magenta dot there, and it's. I'll click on this and see what I can just do some colouring in. Bear with me 1 second. Didn't really work that well, but you get the picture. You can see that magenta dot in between that black those black lines. That's the Tangula batholith. So that's the big engine that's creating the opportunities that we've got. So our projects sit on the edge of it. So you've got Copper Duke, Dynasty Gold Project, and Linderos, and you can see noted Bramaderos, which is Sunstone, our neighbour, is sitting on the edge. So I think this particular region will really come into prominence over the coming couple of years with the discoveries that are being made off the back of the geological setting that exists down here. So I think just make sure that's through. So here we are. We got this is our Dynasty project. So this is, I guess, this is our flagship project, our most advanced project. It is a 2.1 million ounce epithermal gold system, 16.8 million ounces of silver. Importantly, it is only 20% explored. We're really only just scratching the surface with this project. The focus in 2021 was to go and do some reconnaissance drilling. So the team went in and did some drilling in the Iguana area and Cerro Verde. And so that was really just to test, some of the results that had been previously reported in the NI 43-101 and give some confidence to our shareholders. So, it's I think we ended up doing 25,000 meters of drilling in there, and that was on top of 30,000 meters that had been done before. One of the things that really caught our attention when we first visited the site was they were doing some small scale mining there. They were mining in that Cerro Verde area. They'd done 3 years of trial mining and opened up the first 3 veins, and they ended up discovering another 8 veins in the same pit, and they took that pit down to 70 or 80 meters. You could see the vein density was far more pervasive than what was shown in that NI 43-101. So the mine-to model reconciliation showed that the grade was in that particular area was down about 15%. So they were taking out about 3.46 gram sort of average head grade. But importantly, there was a 169% more tons in that particular area and 40% more gold. So, we've had 25,000 meters of drilling done last year. That drilling confirmed that, the resources defined is there. The grades are better. The widths are better. It's extended along strike and down dip. And you've got the history of mining. So it gives us a lot of confidence that, there's a hell of a lot of gold to be discovered in these concessions. And this is a big area. So, Mike and the team have gone back to, some first principles within this area. They've been, the last 6 months have been updating geological maps, to better understand the control of the mineralization and the distribution around the controls. They have, they've had a LiDAR survey take place. They've had Dr. Scott Halley head out there and review some of the data. And one of the really interesting things that's emerging is we think there was the Calaman Porphyry that had some old intersections into it under the previous regime. We went in and did some reconnaissance drilling, but we in the recent reports we put out, I think it was 102 meters at 1.46 gram head grade, and we think we clipped the edge of that porphyry. It was a pretty serious hit. I think it was largely missed by the market, but Scott has reviewed the data, and then the team have been out there mapping and doing the soils. And it's just on, again, I'll sort of mark it here for everyone. It's just on the edge there. It's not really working my pen, but anyway, it's where it is on the southern section of Cerro Verde, and the footprint from the soils, it looks like this porphyry could be materially bigger. So with that information, the information that we received to date, I guess internally the questions were, do you go in and drill Papiel and finish off that work to complete to bring out the JORC resource, or do we start to show some size and scale and demonstrate a bit of a step out and use the treasury to show a bit more size and scale? And so under Peter Cook's leadership, it was felt that we can hold off going in and doing the reconnaissance drilling at Papiel, spending 3 to 4 mil on that. We're better off reviewing this information from Scott, looking at opportunities right through the middle of this epithermal gold system to step out and drill along strike. You've got Sunstone that's sitting up to the top right-hand corner, who had just across the border from us, who had the new discovery. So this is a corridor with I guess a cluster of porphyries and an epithermal system that runs through the middle. What it looks like we've got is, potentially we've got a big copper gold porphyry with this epithermal gold system hanging off the edge of it, but running not 9 kilometres along strike. So, so what is it that we've got? We're still putting the puzzle together, but it looks like it's, something that could be, have serious size and shape. So we're finishing off some of our layers of work at the moment, and the intent is to get in there and do some more drilling towards the back end of the third quarter this year. But this project, it's got multi-million ounce written all over it, and that's just from the epithermal system. If the porphyry footprint matches, matches what that where we clipped it, it could be just a game changer then again. So, I look at the value of this company. I see it as, we're backstopped by 2.1 million ounces, which we're going to be much, much bigger than that. I'll just keep clipping. Yeah, so I mean, I guess what can it be? I think, it's the work done today pretty clearly shows it's going to be a multi-million ounce epithermal gold system. How do you mine it in the future? That's still to be determined. We see as possibility of a series of open pits and underground development. It definitely is an emerging district for copper gold porphyries, and shallow that aren't deep. So it's not like you're drilling down 500, 600, 700 meters to touch this thing. This 102 meters was not far off the surface. So the porphyry looks preserved, and it looks like it's there, and the epithermal system looks like it's big. This is a really interesting one for us, Linderos. So, right as of today, we're in there drilling. So we'll put that out into the market in the morning, Perth time. But we've got 500 metre holes going into the Copper Ridge, copper moly porphyry, the bullseye target, as we say. And we've also got 18 holes going into the higher sulfidation gold system that's associated with that porphyry that's just sitting on the edge of it. This is something that we're pretty excited about. It's not too often you have a land package like this that has a cluster of different styles of mineralization sets sitting within the 140 square kilometres. So, the team are extremely excited and optimistic about it. Pablo Morali, when he came up from Cerro Casale, went and walked up along the creek and said, he came back to Mike and said he just needs to be a part of it. He felt that this is, one of the best underexplored assets that he's seen in the last 20 years. So he shifted him and his family up there, and obviously under Mike's mentorship, the two of them set about doing the layers of work, the geophysics, the soils, the geochem. The guys have been working tirelessly out here to prepare this for the first drilling. With any first campaign, coming out, putting those first holes into the ground is always the longest lead time. Our CSR team did a fabulous job. This particular area had never had a CSR team until we took the assets over. There was 5 communities down there. They had never been engaged. So we've got full engagement and cooperation with these groups, and they're really enjoying the relationship that's being fostered. Our Enviro team has done a fabulous job preparing for this first drill campaign. So we've got we've got the stage is now set, and the drilling has begun. It's a copper ridge. It's described as a textbook porphyry, bullseye target. So the guys have done the geophysical work. They've gone and overlaid the geochem. Done the trenching. Looked at there were a number of a couple of older holes that were drilled just off to the edge of it, and returned some pretty impressive from surface results. That we had 85 metres at finishing the hole at 0.32% copper. We think it's the target's probably about 250, 300 metres below the surface. This was just drilled through the phyllic and porphyric alteration on the edge. So interestingly, as you got deeper in the hole, the grade was improving. So we're optimistic. It's a target that we're excited to test, and we're certainly going to have a red hot crack at it, as I've alluded to now. The next part, sorry, I'll just go back. The other part that we're drilling is the Meseta Gold Camp. Now, the thing about the Meseta Gold Camp was we did have a little bit of a speed hump there. We had initially had some illegal miners come in and do some attempt to do some mining into the area where we were going to drill. So that set the program back about 6 or 7 weeks. I guess the positives out of that was we saw the response from from the government and the police, who cleared out the illegal miners straight away. It was a fantastic response. It showed that they support the junior mining industry. They see that they want to protect the assets. They see the assets as part of their future, and they move swiftly. For us, I guess it was in a weird way. It was sort of encouraging. We could certainly see they were taking a lot of gold out of the section they were mining. So we're pretty excited about drilling this. We understand that initially we're going to test 18 holes, and we'll sort of see what the grades are. But we're extremely optimistic about what we might find. I guess our third project, and ranking third, not because it's the least loved, but more around it's the least advanced. Certainly had a lot of attention in Canada and North America. Copper Duke was, I think, been labelled as one of the better early exploration opportunities around the globe at one stage. I think Ian Telfer may have even come out publicly, who's a Canadian mining entrepreneur, and made some rather optimistic statements about it. You can see from the geophysical survey, there's a lot of pretty exciting targets. It is a big land package. So we've got our CSR teams are in there working and getting some really good traction. We've got the guys out in the field mapping, doing the soils and geochem, and really looking to prioritise what our, where we're going to target our initial drilling. So we've got a couple of areas that were pretty clearly coming to the front of the pack in terms of where we'll look to drill potentially in the next 3 to 4 months. There's still a little bit of more work to be done there, but we're hoping to get in there and drill a couple of holes before the year's out, and test a couple of these anomalies. It's at this stage, it's all potential. It's a porphyry copper, epithermal gold. Hosting both type of events. What it is, time will tell, but it's a prospect that we're absolutely happy to have. One we want to put a lot of work into, but we got to do the layers of work before we go and invest in it. So we see this as something that we'll look to put a lot more attention into over coming 6 to 12 months. You can see some of the historical grades from some of the work done. You've got so from some of these channel samples, you've got 1.9 meters at 61 grams per ton gold, 1.7 meters at 12 grams, 3 meters at 6.5. So some fantastic results, and it certainly gets you thinking about what it might be and can be. And it has all the signatures you're looking for to be a potential tier 1 opportunity. So we've got boots on the ground, and the guys are systematically doing their work to make sure that it's going to be ready for drilling based on strong merit. Look, here's a slide a little bit about our ESG and our social license to operate. I think this is one thing that there's many people that overlook it, but it's an area, though this slide comes up last for us, it's the number one thing that we focused on to get in order and get full engagement and cooperation on. So we, in order to invest consistently in the projects based on merit, you need full access and you need engagement from the community. We're in a fantastic part of the world in Ecuador. They're supportive of mining. The families down there are wonderful, rural families. And, they just need to be taken up the curve on what an exploration company looks like, what are the opportunities for future job and employment and training, what have we got to offer them. And so our CSR team, led by Cecilia, have done an amazing job, and the acceleration has been phenomenal over the last 6 months. So, that's something that, I get confidence has risen significantly, where now we can put a hand on our heart and say that we're in a really good position not to have interruption. Whereas I think historically these assets, they just had never had a strategy adopted, never had a CSR team deployed on any of the projects. And so when they were going in to do the work, they would do bits and pieces and wouldn't do it the right way, and they'd upset people. So I think the people now see that our style of engagement is one where we work hand in glove with these people, and the opportunities are there for both. These are assets of Ecuador. They're there to serve all the people in Ecuador, but the local communities are certainly there to be helped along the way, and the people there recognise the opportunity that we're bringing. So I guess that in closing, the projects that we have, I see it as being backstopped by a 2.1 million ounce resource at Dynasty. That is going to be much, much bigger. That epithermal gold system has all the signs and signatures of being 3 to 5 million ounces. What we didn't know when we first got hold of the assets was that potentially that there's a big copper gold porphyry sitting there, and that 102 meters at 1.46 grams looks like it's clipped the edge of it, doing a hell of a lot more work, and it's emerging about the size of the footprint. We've got to go back in and do some drilling and try and demonstrate that size and scale. With or without that, project's a big project. Then what you've got in the background is you've got two real wild cards, one being Linderos and the other one being Copper Duke. Linderos, as I said before, doing 5 holes into that copper moly porphyry, 5 500-meter holes, and another 18 into the Meseta gold camp that's associated with that copper porphyry. There is a serious opportunity for a major discovery. The assets we've got command attention because they have the targets that can produce something that is material to the market, and the market is not getting anywhere else in the world at the moment, and that's a major discovery. So follow it closely. Certainly follow this drilling that we've started today very, very closely, And yeah, by all means, if anyone ever wants to reach out direct, certainly my email address is on the website, and feel free to reach out, and happy to chat anytime. Lena, that's probably all from me.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt. That was a very informative presentation. So we can now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just a reminder to our participants, you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. So Matt, we've got a few questions here. So first up, you talked about the JORC resource. So now that, you're focusing on drilling out Dynasty, what's the expected timeline on the JORC resource?
So we've got a chap by the name of Nick Oliver, who's a structural geologist, coming hopefully to site in September, October. He's going in to do some work for us. As I said, we had Scott Halley go in and do some work. Off the back of that, we think we're going to be in a position to start understanding what our geological model is going to look like. We want to test this Copper Porphyry, and we also want to step out a little bit along strike. But we certainly will look to start that resource model before the year's out. Now, when it finishes, at this point, I can't guarantee you, but I'm looking to, we're looking to, I guess, review all the information and then, come out with a robust resource model at some point early next year. That's the reality. It won't get done this side of Christmas. So it's something that's definitely on the radar. But the NI 43-101 is it's a good report. The drilling that we've done to date more than validates the resource is there and outperforming. So the level of confidence we got has grown. What's changed is the material nature, the size and scope of what this project can be. So we need to do the work and investigate that, and then the resource will follow.
All right, great. So you have about 10 million US in the bank. What's your exploration budget for the remainder of the year?
Look, what we plan to do is we've got 5,000 meters going into Linderos. So that's initially to test these two targets. And so, off the back of that, that's going to set the scene on where we go and what we do at Linderos. Linderos has a number of different targets. These are the first two targets that we're testing. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of exploration work done in this particular prospect over the coming 12 months. But initially, it's to understand, the quality of these two targets and the opportunity that presents. The next part will be that we'll go back and probably do another, 5 to 7,000 meters at Dynasty before at the back end of this Linderos drilling, towards the end of the third quarter into the fourth. And in an ideal world, we'd like to do at least 2 more holes in the Copper Duke. So we will look to we're going to spend a few $1 million on that drilling and getting that done.
All right, great. So you talked about drilling at Linderos. When do you start anticipating results? Are you still seeing backup at assay labs, or
look, we don't anticipate the delays
around on that front?
Sorry, there was a delay there. Did you ask about the assay turnaround times?
Yeah, and when do you start or anticipate to start receiving results from Linderos?
Look, I spoke about that last night with Pablo and Mike, and our assay results have been coming back within on around 30 days from when we send the assays off. So it's significantly improved from last year. But when we drill, there's a drilling. We need to cut and log the core, and then we send it off. So from this drilling, I think we allow for the drilling started today. It's probably 60 days before we start seeing results back.
All right. Just pivoting from that to your other projects in the portfolio, specifically at Jerusalem, I mean, would you look at any potential M&A opportunities there, or do you plan to hold on to your non-core assets?
Look, no, definitely open to M&A on our non-core assets. One of the challenges of Jerusalem was, when we first bought the assets, that particular asset came back into the fold after we took hold of the companies. So, Jerusalem's had illegal mining on it. It's been a concession that we haven't had the ability to actually go on and assess the opportunity. So there are some issues there that need to be addressed, and so a highly motivated group that wants to get their hands dirty, there's an opportunity. For us at the moment, we don't have the bandwidth to take the attention away from these key projects that we've got. But I think it is something that we would certainly look at divesting at some point.
Okay, so sticking to the theme of strategy, has your focus shifted to discovering a large porphyry instead of epithermal systems?
No, it hasn't shifted. As I said, we've got two epithermal gold systems sitting there. We've got Dynasty, which is that 9-kilometre corridor, and is extremely attractive. And we're doing the work on it. So the guys are out there mapping, doing soils, trenches, preparing for that next round of drilling. So we're really keen to drill a long strike, and we see that as a huge opportunity. And likewise at Linderos, you have the high sulfidation gold system that's associated with a porphyry. The interesting thing that we have that a lot of other groups don't have is at both those prospects we have both. We've got these porphyries that are sitting, that have these epithermal gold systems hanging off them. So it's just something that we need to run in parallel. It certainly hasn't changed the focus. We're reviewing the data constantly and the information as it comes to hand. But it's we'll test the footprint. We'll see the size and get a feeling of the size and scale potential. But we've got at our disposal, we've got two prospects with two different systems that sit right next door to each other that are really interesting and show some real potential. So we're following up.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to the drill results in that case. But that's it for the Q&A portion of the webinar. Matt, I would like to thank you for your time, for taking, for hosting this webinar with us today.